But it could be Clem, it could be Kumio, right? It could be stats or something, and that's obviously a little bit more terrifying. So there's a whole lot to fight for as we're going to kick things off on Golden Aura. In the bottom right side, we're looking at the main base of our Canadian Zerg player representing the Shopify Rebellion. What a weekend it's been for them so far. This is Scarlett.
And up here at the top left-hand side of the map, the blue Protoss player representing America and Virtus Pro, he is Astrea.
A very different first day for both of them. As Wadi already mentioned on the desk, yesterday wasn't really Astrea's day, but hey, it wasn't really Clem's day either. And Clem just came out guns blazing, looked pretty much as good as he always did. Maybe could have done something about it. Neither's in the very first game, but other than that, I feel like I saw the real Clem. Yesterday wasn't Astrea's day. There's a good chance that today is going to be very different. Scarlett, on the other end, actually had a really good day, taking out a Protoss like Nightmare. Nightmare's been getting a lot of praise, not just from the fans, but also from a lot of pro gamers who play against him. They're like, no, Nightmare is legit very, very good. He's not one of the Korean Protosses. He's up there together with Hero as the very best in certain matchups. So for Scarlett to get a victory over Nightmare is impressive. Also winning the upper bracket final of that open bracket against Bunny. I mean, Bunny recently joined a new team. I'm sure Bunny came here with hopes and dreams as well. So an excellent day for Scarlett. Same momentum is on her side, but hey, it's a nil day. None of those things truly matter.
No, absolutely. It's going to come down to these two players duking it out right over here. And I do feel like always, stylistically, I've loved how Scarlett always typically plays against Astrea, because I really do feel like she tends to get a very good read on whatever a player is potentially going to try to do. And as long as she has that read, she's able to just make really, really smart decisions, which I think is what Zerg players really excel at a lot of time. But Astrea specifically can be a little bit trickier to read, because he doesn't just play always the pure standard Protoss.
No, Astrea plays in the own way. This is why a lot of people love Max Angel, because he is A, world-class Protoss player, but B, he can do it in his own way. He will look at certain builds and be like, yeah, I know this is actually not the most optimal thing, but it's really fun. And we often talk about his ability to macro. He's incredibly good in building probes, sometimes to his own downfall, where he just gets a little bit too carried away. It's like, mate, you're being all in, and he knows he's being all in, but he's still just building probes non-stop because he's programmed to do that. He knows that he cannot get too crazy, he cannot get too tunnel visioned, and even when it comes to having fun, you can still have fun at a very high level. But he might have to dial down just a little bit, because obviously results matter here.
Yeah, and I do feel like if you look at Astrea's creativity in the last year or two, I do feel like he's kind of gotten a little bit more subtle about the different changes he makes from the standard things. I think he's willing to do a lot more of the standard stuff, a bit more so than he has in the past, where sometimes it would just be, Astrea, you're truly just going off the beaten path. But now it's a little bit more subtle of changes, so I'm interested to see what he's going to start busting on out. For now, it's all looking very, very normal and standard. Two adepts doing their typical little harassment, just getting a scat out on drone counts, ensuring he's not about to be all in, which is also something you should be watching on the lookout for Scarlett.
As you guys just saw with Clamoroke, obviously we're playing best of fives here, and you could say like the first game of best of five is kind of important, but it's not the do or die all. It's a must-win game, but Golden Aura is legitimately a pretty damn good Protoss map. You can kind of just stabilize, lock down on 4 bases, a couple of cannons and batteries are going to keep you safe for a long time. And then keep in mind that Astrea's day yesterday wasn't that hot. I do actually think the first map here is incredibly important for Astrea, more so than Scarlett. Some of the better Zerg maps will come. I think this is the best Protoss map that we'll be playing on of these 5. So for Astrea, this really kind of is a must-win.
Yeah. Now, we do have the Void Ray coming out after that Oracle. And I know this is something that a lot more Protoss players have been doing the last couple of months and so. What do you think about it, Kev?
I'm a hater. I'm sorry. If there was maybe one map where I can be like, yeah, the Void Ray isn't all that bad, it might actually be Golden Aura, because of course you can just like float it around a little bit, check for some overlords. Scarlett barely has any overlords, by the way, in the other part of the map. She's very good. There's a few links are going to work on this pylon, and Scarlett will get this pylon. That's actually ultra nice, because now there is no shield battery. There won't be a battery for a long time. Astrea is also temporarily supply blocked. Oh my, okay. And this is one of the reasons why people like going Void Ray. I had the discussion with Raynor about this yesterday as well. I was like, man, I just don't like the Void Ray. He's like, now on certain maps it's really silly, because he was mad about the Void Ray of Hero on Ghost River. He's like, if you go Oracles on Ghost River, they show up so freaking quick. It's really silly to go Void. He's like, but if you want to do something like 2 Stargate Fleet Beacon and you want to properly hide it, then it makes some sense. But Scarlett wasn't born last night as this Oracle, by the way. It's a little too deep, takes a lot of damage. The moment that Scarlett sees Oracle into Void Ray, I think some of her alarm bells will go off immediately, and I'm sure she's already thinking about 2 Stargate Fleet Beacon being a real possibility here.
Yeah, we're going to be seeing what her reaction to the kind of thing is, as she did see, I think, the Void Ray to one of the Lings just kind of getting poked around by a little bit for the Void Ray. But the first carrier is already on its way on out now. 2 carriers already getting started. This is going to be that fun period for a Protoss player where your carrier is going to be coming out soon. You may have your first 2 carriers, but that is going to be the point of vulnerability if Scarlett decide to get hyper aggressive. Is Scarlett actually going to continue to get, churn out more units, though? She is still making a couple of drones, but a lot of Lings right now.
I think all of these drones so far are fine. It's very good that Scarlett wasn't too worried about a random Zealot all-in or a bunch of adepts with Resonating Glaive. Because if Scarlett is sitting at like 52 drones, she makes a bunch of safety roaches, as we often call them, she'd actually be in trouble because those safety roaches really slow the Zerg economy down. Scarlett hasn't really slowed herself down at all, has barely lost any workers. Astrea is now dropping the Twilight Council in the Forge, by the way, behind all of this. I don't think that these carriers are going to be able to do a whole lot. I would kind of like old school Roach Hydra here, and there is the Hydralisk then going down immediately. I don't think this is even the kind of game where you need to go into a lurk and then drop the Infestation Pit. I think if you spam pure Roach Hydra, the way the Dark likes to do it as well, of 70-something workers, you bring some creeps to... actually, the Hydra then gets cancelled, goes for the Spire.
Oh.
I don't know if I love that choice. It would be great if Astrea would make a 3rd Stargate and go Stargate units all the way. But obviously we can see that the follow-up is ground units. And I really think Roach Hydra would have been excellent here.
Yeah, I'm always really curious also when it comes to, say, a map like Goldenor. You're talking about how easy it is to defend those couple of bases and everything. I wonder if that's maybe factoring into why she doesn't feel like a Roach Hydra is going to work out quite as well. But she is still going to move out with at least a handful of roaches. The kind of awkward thing about this is those roaches don't really have an escape as soon as Astrea notices, but that's assuming that the Stargate units are actually back at home.
There's very little at home. Astrea is going to be forced to recall, but this is lovely by Scarlett because at this point, these carriers, they're supposed to be annoying on the other side of the map. Deploy all these interceptors, put some pressure on the queens, maybe grab a queen or 2. Actually, fantastic attack by Scarlett. It's not about the damage that she's dealing, but it's about the damage that she's not taking at home. And she can still, by the way, be incredibly aggressive with just pure Roach, Ravager, Queen, Corruptor. Because it's going to take a long time until Astrea has proper splash damage. I mean, the Templar Archives is done. Are we going to fire up Storm immediately? I kind of doubt it because you need some other units to really tank for Storm. I mean, Scarlett is playing a really good game. 90 workers, 4 bases, plenty of creep. Would love to see a 5th hatchery go down as well, but yeah, I feel like 8 minutes into Golden Aura, a great Protoss map. Scarlett's got to be pretty damn happy with how this game has gone for her so far.
Yeah, and it's all coming back to a lot of really nice strategic reads, a lot of strategic decisions around what Astrea is doing. And Scarlett now going to have 16 Corruptors out on the map in a few seconds. Any kind of little pressure that Astrea tries to do with those carriers is going to be very difficult to get done for a while. And Corruptors are seen by the Oracle, but the Oracle goes down, and there was only 1 Oracle on the map.
Yep. Put the Mapo on yell. I don't know who's in charge. Show us how many drones have gone down. I feel like it's 2 or something. Yeah, literally just 2 drones. Scarlett has gone up to 90 drones. 89 at this point after we made a Spore or a Gas, whatever, a hatchery apparently. I mean, Scarlett, her economy is flying. She's played a very good game, and I think this is going to be incredibly difficult for Astrea. Of course, Archons near batteries are fantastic, but this is where some of these roaches can morph into Ravagers, and Corrosive Ball is absolutely fantastic in gunning down these cannons and batteries. This is going to be an incredibly difficult hold for Astrea.
It really is. The Overlords are going to abandon the creep highway on that right-hand side, and instead, Scarlett opts to go for the left-hand base. The Corruptor's actually just going for the Caustic Spray on the Nexus. It is going to be taking quite a bit of damage, ignoring the single Void Ray attacking, ignoring the Archon. The Nexus goes down, and Scarlett has already done a significant amount of damage with that.
Yep, but since he is stuck on lair tech, you do kind of need more. You can't just really be like, oh, I killed the Nexus, this is awesome, now I can go home right now. Because Astrea's army is tiny right now, Scarlett, her army is massive, and this is where you want to keep on trading, start working on these gates, look for a pickup on one of these carriers. Of course, you got to be careful with the Corruptors, you can't really put them above the Archons. One carrier takes a lot of damage. I mean, Scarlett is playing close to the perfect ZVP here. Astrea does have a couple Zealots on the other side of the map working on a hatchery, but even if this hatchery falls, it doesn't really make up for the bases that Astrea's losing.
Yeah, Immortal is going to be losing its shields there. The Corruptors just diving in on top of the carriers. The Archons are getting a lot of big splash damage done on those Corruptors, so quite a few of them end up falling. Is Scarlett able to continue putting on the pressure over here? This is an awkward choke point.
Look at the bank of Scarlett. I think Scarlett's kind of wondering what she should be building. What else is there? She wants to make sure she's not overproducing Corruptors or anything. I think she just made the right amount of Corruptors as the 3rd carrier goes down as well. And at this point, Scarlett should just be able to send it. Nothing but Lings, Roaches, Ravagers. Can drop an Infestation Pit as well. don't know if Astrea can really hang in there a whole lot longer. These Zealots have been okay-ish, but Astrea needs a little more than okay-ish.
Yeah, he did manage to kill one of the hatcheries, but it was a hatchery that wasn't really mining just yet. Scarlett can still continue to churn out more and more units. She's remaking the hatchery that she ended up losing over there. And corrosive vials are continuing to try and rain down and find a little bit of damage, but Scarlett feels like she's sort of stalled out over here at the bottom of the ramp. You were talking about it before, Kev. Golden Aura, it's so hard to move up these little choke points.
Yeah, but this is great army rotation here by Scarlett as he grabs one of the Immortals as well. Battery overcharge, not good enough to save that Immortal. One or two of the static defenses got picked off. The Zealots are still being a nuisance, and Astrea's supply is starting to stabilize a little. Scarlett realized that Astrea was still using the Stargate. How she saw it, maybe she saw the Cybercore spinning. It's like, okay, if you're still going for air upgrades, there's a good chance that you're going back into carriers. Just made a few more Corruptors. I still really like where this game is going for Scarlett, but she does need to start spending her money a little bit better. Because at this point, yeah, that doesn't really look all that hot. Infestation Pit goes down. Get one more base, maybe because all the queens were on the other side of the map. Scarlett didn't have the larva anymore. That's
maybe
there's a chance
and
that
she lost that hatchery, so I guess it is just even less larva now.
Yep. I guess that's why she wasn't able to spend her money. I still think it's okay, but Astrea's army in the future is going to be a whole lot better. Now the Stalkers have Blink. +2 is done on the ground units as well. So Astrea is going to be a little happier as he actually has some proper micro potential now at home.
Yeah, Zealots are going to find the gold-based hatchery, even if they will end up sacrificing their lives in the process for it. At least knows also where all those roaches and ravages are, and knows that Scarlett is not getting hyper-aggressive. The 4 Corruptors that are out are going to try and go for Caustic Spray on the Nexus. It should not die, I want to say, but I don't see anything on the minimap coming this direction.
Corruptors deal crazy damage, man. It's like, it's a little, and then all of a sudden it's a whole lot. We do cancel it at the very last second. And Scarlett has a couple of Corruptors on top of the War Prism as well on the right side of the map. And at this point, Scarlett maxed out, obviously on a lot of basic units, knows that it won't hurt to just keep on trying, as that corrosive bar actually did a lot of damage to the carrier too. That really helps. Astrea makes another attempt, going up to 5 bases. Scarlett still here, is going to deny this one as well.
Oh, so annoying. Even scouting ahead with a couple of the Corruptors, so that the rest of the Corruptors, they missed the Caustic Spray. A little bit of a missed micro there from Scarlett, as she definitely had the time to actually get that as well. But Mothership and the carriers are making a little bit of a push out on to create, taking out some of the Creep Tumors, taking out some of those units. Scarlett going for a counterattack. It does cancel that Nexus in the top right, but she needs to be able to hold on here.
Yep, and it's also very important that this is where she's got larva available, because these Protoss armies will always be difficult to clean up. Like on Creep, sure, the Roaches and the Ravages have micro potential, but we've got a bunch of Immortals in the mix. They've got +2, +3 is close to finishing up, and plenty of Storms. Like if Scarlett cleans this army up one time, I think she's gonna be fine, but it won't be easy.
Storm's coming down on the left and the right-hand side. The Archon's tanking so much damage on the front line, but the Corruptors coming from behind, sniping off 1, 2 of the carriers. Storm's blanketing the army, but is there enough on the ground? Scarlett is overwhelming Astrea.
What a fight by Scarlett. Perfect engagement. Very good job as well. Not too afraid of these terrifying Protoss armies, as there is a Mothership that was actually just doing nothing. Kind of weird, right? That would have been very useful with the main army. Could have used the cloaking ability, even if there are overseers in sports. It's always nice. Could maybe keep your High Templars a bit safer. Astrea's gonna have a very, very tough time rebuilding all those High Templars, those 4 Immortals, those Archons as well. And Scarlett is still maxed out. Has always had some money in the bank. Great Aspire on the way. Adrenal Glands on the way. I would like to see Scarlett just kind of go for it. Look at these army supplies right now, Ravi. Even the bad fights are going to be completely fine for you.
Yeah, and I think Scarlett senses that as well. She is just going to go for it. If she knocks out even one of these bases here for Astrea, he's simply not going to have the funds to replenish this army. It's already going to be difficult. Time War coming down on top of the ramp, making it awkward for the Roaches and Ravagers, but Corruptors are just going to sacrifice their lives to get the Nexus, while the Roaches and Ravagers rotate around. The Banelings finding the probes and also finding the Nexus, and that is going to shatter Astrea's economy.
An excellent ZVP coming out of Scarlett, showing us why she had such a strong day yesterday, taking out the likes of Bunny and Nightmare. He's off to a great start here in this best of 5. Astrea's going to try perhaps for a little bit longer, but he knows that he is dead. GG gets called. Scarlett takes a convincing 1-0 lead on Golden Aura of all maps. I mean, that's really got to give you a lot of hope if you're a Scarlett fan, if you're rooting for a Canadian Zerg here. And Astrea will probably just look at it and be like, that wasn't the build. I mean, at one point, Robbie, we were looking, Scarlett's economy, monstrous. How many drones died? 2. I can't think of many high-level PvZs where the Protoss kills 2 drones at minute 9, and we're like, yeah, we're completely okay with this game. Like, you just need to do a little more as a Protoss.
Yeah, when you invest in the fleet pick and you try to go over that double Stargate, that little counterattack we just saw on the screen there did so much enforcing the recall because Astrea was looking to get damage done with that. The Oracle, yeah, if it gets just 2 drones, it's a single Oracle. Sometimes that does happen, but you want to get some kind of pressure on your opponent. And Scarlett just went completely untethered in terms of any kind of damage she took.
I really love that this is where Scarlett decided to take this fight as well. Like, these fights can get scary. Sometimes the Zergs are a little bit indecisive. They run in range, they eat a couple shots of the Immortals, the Archons fire one Storms, and they run away again. But Scarlett realized she has triple sport quality there. It's like, let's just go ahead and take this fight. My economy is bigger. Even if you do well, it's going to be okay for me. This is where I want to make the final line of defense, as he didn't just take an okay fight, he took an absolutely fantastic fight. No idea what Astrea's mothership was up to, by the way, at that point.
Yeah.
Maybe he was like waiting to take a bit of a fight and then
maybe recall there.
Yeah, and then recall to the bottom left, try to take out the gold as well, so you win a bit of a skirmish and then you take out the base, but none of that happened. I think, honestly, one of the biggest kudos to Scarlett that we can give is that she didn't misread what was happening. She didn't get to see everything, because as a Zerg, it's sometimes difficult to really see everything, but she never slowed down when it came up to drone. And it's like, I'm just not that worried. I see 2 basic adepts, nothing else. I see 1 Oracle, and then a Void Ray as a follow-up. I feel that Scarlett put 2 and 2 together real quick and realized that she was completely safe to fully saturate 3 bases, and that's when a Zerg player can just grow so freaking quick.
Yeah, I really feel like Scarlett hit her stride there with her biggest strengths, is just the ability to read the game, to understand and say, okay, this is what you're doing, these are the signs that you've showed me, this is what I need to do to react, this is how I'm going to strategically place my units around, and she took full advantage of it.
How many CVPs haven't we seen where the Zerg has all the time in the world to drone up, but they get worried. It's like, what if it's Hero and 8 gates and charts are about to come online? They fire up 8, 9 roaches at 42 or like 50-something drones, and all of a sudden it just feels like they're stuck for a little while. And then the carriers, they don't need to do a whole lot because the Protoss is completely fine economically, but that did not happen. Scarlett had a great read on the game as we have loaded into El Sione. Bottom left side, an absolutely fantastic tournament for her so far, and for the entire team of the Shopify Rebellion, this is Scarlett.
And up here at the top right-hand side of the map, we have our blue American Protoss player from Virtus Pro looking for that first W on the board. He is Astrea. Hometown hero Astrea.
Really cool though, like we're now obviously a couple hours into the second day, but so far not a single Shopify Rebellion player has lost against anybody that's not on the Shopify Rebellion. Like what are we gonna...
That's a good stat, actually.
Yeah, like they've been boot camping together. I think Harstem said he was in Toronto for around like 2 weeks. I know Beyond was there as well. Scarlett obviously was there. Lambo spent some time in Canada, and they've all did what they were supposed to do so far. They've literally only lost against each other. That's not a stat that's gonna last for the entire weekend, of course, but incredibly good run by Beyond, Harstem, Lambo, and Scarlett so far.
Yeah, I guess that does mean that Beyond ended up taking that 3-1 victory versus Trigger. A little bit sad for my boy Trigger, is I think last time I saw it was 1-1, but Beyond really be able to play up this event.
Yep. As we see, there was a time that a lot of Zerg players like taking the gold first here, even against Protoss, right? Like, how do you like that, Rafi?
I mean, I'm always a fan of anything that's a little bit less standard on any of these maps, but I do feel like taking the gold on this map, I feel like we saw so many players just find ways to be annoying, to find ways to punish it, to make it really awkward, whether it be a depth behind the mineral line or any kind of other pressures that were coming on out. So I get the desire to just kind of steer away from it.
What I enjoyed is, I think I saw Max Specs do it a couple of times, where they actually go double gate before they expand, just to get those adepts even a little bit earlier. And then like that one queen or the spine crawler that they're trying to build is just not good enough to keep those drones safe. And yeah, I feel like it's already risky against the regular 1 gate fast expand with then adept somewhere and oracles floating around, or just straight up resonating glaive adept, like 4 gate with a prism. But if they open up double gate before they expand, then those adepts show up ever so much faster. And then it really does feel like, as a Zerg, you're like, I love the gold, but just can't really justify it.
Yeah, I'm 100% with you. Now, Astrea's going to go for a pretty similar opening as the last game, but we'll see what he actually makes after the first Oracle. I think it's still just in production right now, so...
Please, more Oracles. I'm done with
Oracles. No Void Ray today.
No. I like maybe Golden Aura, I can live with it, but in the end it didn't really work out. And an absolutely brilliant, like little Ling Roach attack just to get those units home. Great defense here, by the way, by Scarlett. as he picks up one of the very first adepts. These are all things that do really start adding up, because one adept at a time, not that terrifying. Two adepts together is always terrifying, especially if it's double Oracle that's flying around as well. And Scarlett, her DVP, is just looking incredibly on point.
She's so on point. I mean, that was just with a single queen and 2 Zerglings as well. Now, it is going to be that second Oracle coming on out, additional gateways being thrown down as well.
Kind of fun in both players' supply block there for a split moment. Scarlett, her supply block lasting a little bit longer, but as painful as that can be in the early moments of StarCraft II, obviously as a Zerg, as long as you're injecting, now you can just build 7 drones at once. Maybe it's supposed to be 4 or 5, right? But you'll survive.
Yeah, few extra seconds of lost mining time. Not going to be the end of the world there, but third Oracle going to be also on the way here. So Astrea is going to be looking to play a little bit more of a normal game rather than the double Stargate kind of play that was going on for Golden Aura. And is able to find one drone already over there. A little bit of mismicro with the Oracles. It turns a little bit wider there and ends up taking quite a bit of damage.
That's too much. That is so much damage. From here on out, Astrea is basically forced to keep that ultra low HP Oracle at home, and then you can maybe work on these links. I love how quickly Scarlett just retargets, goes for the adept, grabs another adept, now runs away as soon as his Oracle activates Pulsar Beam. Scarlett is just getting the best of Astrea in all these tiny skirmishes so far.
I really feel like it's whenever I see these two players play, it really is half of the time I feel like Scarlett's able to get a really nice strategic read on Astrea or something, but then just mechanically feels like she's losing out on all these little engagements, all these little trades.
Not today.
But then today, it's sometimes we do just see the peak level Scarlett where she's just on point on everything, and Astrea just kind of struggled to find his stride.
Could really have something to do with that Shopify Rebellion bootcamp, right? Like 2 weeks of non-stop video gaming, to hang out with your teammates, firing each other up. Scarlett really is on point. She's making all those correct calls in the heat of the moment as well, taking the right fights, going up to 4 bases now, and is indeed going to take the gold. Astrea's follow-up is going to be the Blink Stalker with +1. Scarlett, her Lings are going to have very quick access to +1 melee. It is, of course, important to have a few Roaches or ideally Ravages as well, so you can just spam those corrosive balls, keep this army at bay. Yeah, so far I truly love everything that Scarlett has done. Maybe taking the gold as your 4th base is a tiny bit risky. It'd be a lot safer to just take it at 6 o'clock, right? But if the Ling numbers are going to be high enough, if Roach speed, by the way, very important. This is not an upgrade you ever want to delay. I hope Scarlett didn't forget about that, because the lair just finished up. I still think that Scarlett should be able to get away with everything she's been doing so far.
Yeah, nice job by Scarlett with the Ling run by over at this 4th base location, being so annoying, forcing some Warpins back at home. The Lings may even take care of one of the Stalkers there. Scarlett also set off one of the stasis traps that was on the more forward location over here, but it looks like this hatchery is getting awfully low. I think that Scarlett should be able to save it here, though, especially with so many queens there. Surely one of them will have a transfuse if she really needs it.
Well, there is a stasis trap, but Scarlett notice there is a stasis trap, so she just sends a couple of Zerglings forward. Those 2 Lings activated. Double Drop Lord, by the way. Scarlett going very heavy, maybe on some Queen, Roach, Ravager, Ling aggression. And since Astrea is very focused on his own aggression, he's obviously not building any cannons or batteries, and he's going up to 4 bases very early. This is actually going to be incredibly difficult, because right now you look at the army supplies, 40 against 68, you're like, that's not that bad. But I think if we blink a couple of times, the Scarlett is probably going to explode, and it's going to double, if not almost triple, the army supply of Astrea. And if Astrea does not pick up on the fact that this is happening, it's going to be incredibly difficult for him to stabilize. You need cannons and batteries here, Robbie.
Yeah, a handful of gateways is not going to be enough, and Astrea is trading out a lot of these Stalkers, just hit points or shields away for some of these Lings, so there is some value from that, but the Drop-A-Lord actually dropping a handful of these Lings into the natural expansion of Astrea, even forcing even more multitasking out, where he's not going to be building out any of these shield batteries and cannons. We see the Queens coming out from the Drop Overlord, and now Astrea must be realizing what's coming his way.
Yeah, but we have Steve Probes fighting Zerglings in the main base, but these Zerglings have +1 melee. That's not a fight that you really want to take with your Zerglings or with your Probes. You need to have a couple of support units there, but there's an Adept, the Zealot, the Stalker, perhaps 1 Oracle. Astrea really is just kind of running out of steam. A lot of these Stalkers are very low in HP, and this would look so different with a cannon, with a battery, a single overcharge, but this base is unsavable, and obviously Astrea knows that. Now, at this point, it's just how many Stalkers can we at least get out of here? That's still a decent amount, right? With 20 Stalkers, you absolutely have a chance. I think it's a great call not to go everything or nothing, trying to keep that Nexus alive. But it's not just the Nexus, it's the 20 probes that have fallen as well on the side of Astrea.
And Scarlett morphed in even more drop overlords, so she is going to send a handful of these units over to the main base of Astrea. Pro may have actually just caught wind of it as it was going down to plant down a pylon, but is Astrea going to be able to handle this? It looks like he's going to just go for the counterattack with Blink Stalkers.
Yeah, I do kind of like it. And Zealots with +1, by the way. Obviously, the Zerglings don't have armor. They can actually do very good. So Astrea says, you take out my 4th base, I'll take out yours. 4 Stalkers, by the way, left behind there. That's actually a very decent amount. And Astrea is going to wipe in a few more pylons. Going to get a safety Void Ray now as well. Just to kind of like, I want to stabilize Void Ray and I want to gun down some of these Dropper Lords. What I did notice is Scarlett again was floating a little too much money during that attack. And I think that's because all the Queens are going to go forward as there was a slow Stalker warp in. That's why it took forever for that Stalker to be finished up. I think it was that bottom pylon that's just a little bit too far away from the Nexus, so you get the slow warp-ins. Astrea absolutely has a shot here, but if Scarlett is on top of spending her money and stops supply blocking herself because she's losing the Drop Lord, I still think she's just going to have a few too many units.
Yeah, but this is going to be the power hour for Scarlett right now. Before she really feels the impact of losing that 4th base for so long, she is continuing to push on forward. A lot of the Lynx caught in the stasis trap. The Stalkers doing their best Blink Micro to try and push on through, and it looks like it is going to start to be enough. She finds so many of her Queens getting lost to the Stalker volleys, and now the Lings are also going to end up falling soon too.
The average unspent resources is just a little bit too high, and Scarlett did lose a couple of drones here and there as well, especially to the Stalkers. They're on the top of the gold, so 55 drones. That's not a spot that Scarlett really wants to find herself in. There is a lot of creep that she can work with, and I think she still has a decent amount of Queens. If she gets on top of everything that she currently has, just blows up a little bit, slows the game down a tiny bit, it should still be fine. But Astrea probably looks at his army right now and says, hey, my army's actually pretty good. The problem is the no robo, right? And
yeah.
So much creep. Obviously, Scarlett, throughout her entire history of StarCraft II, has always been complimented on her creep spread. And it's really hard to take care of this much creep with a single Oracle. And if you know that the Zerglings at this point have +2 melee, how deep do you really want to go with those Stalkers?
It's so dangerous right now, though, for Scarlett. Scarlett finding a perfect Ling run by. This is so critical right now to distract Astrea, as a couple of Zealots are going to be warped in to try and deal with this. But at the same time, Astrea is trying to do his Blink Stalker Micro on the front lines. Has a lot of Blink Stalkers over here, but that is a lot of Roaches and Ravagers that have been made. Scarlett has had the time bought that she needed, and she is getting counter damage done too.
Yep, because now she's been able to spend that money, right? That she's been sitting on for a little while. But even if her economy wasn't that great, she already mined all those resources. And it's the creep. Like if those Stalkers are battling on the edge of creep as they kind of blink into a set of corrosive balls, the Ravagers are just going to push this back. And Scarlett really doesn't need to continue attacking, but she still has Lings, and Lings with +2 melee, as even Adrenal Glands have been fired up already on the production tab. That's going to take a little while. Should be able to take a great fight here against them Zealots. And Void Ray doesn't really make all the difference. I mean, Astrea's doing his very best, but it just kind of feels that Scarlett has the better tools at the moment. She's got the better upgrades, and with all the map visions he gets from all the creep that she's been spreading, it's just an easier game for her to play.
Yeah, it really is.
Roaches, by the way.
Oh, God. These Roaches are so annoying for Astrea to deal with right now. The warp-in of Stalker is also going to get killed off by the Corrosive Biles. Scarlett is just simply playing from a better position after all of the little leads she has garnered for herself. Or I should say, not little leads, big leads from the earlier stages of the game. Astrea looked like maybe it was going to make something happen a bit later on, but loses the Voider, so now the Ravager is going to go uncontested. Queen doesn't even need to help out over here, and Astrea has just simply not been able to secure a 4th base this whole time.
Yep. It's the Queens as well that were brought the very first time. Scarlett attacked the 4th base and killed a lot of these Oracles that made this so damn difficult for Astrea. Scarlett doesn't really need to make this attack. She could have waited for a couple of her key upgrades to kick in, but she says, I believe in my army. I think it's good enough. It's always hard to attack into such a big concave, though, of Stalkers. Even if the attack doesn't totally go Scarlett's way, she knows that she's kind of safe because Astrea cannot step on creep. These Lings are about to become a whole lot more powerful, as we can see that Adrenal Glands is about to finish up, and Stalkers alone against Zerglings on creep. This is not a place you ever want to be, Robbie.
Yeah, all the Oracles have been picked off as well, especially with those Corrosive Biles in that last fight. It looks like a single Oracle is actually still left out on the map. Templar Archive is going to be on the way, but Astrea is a 3-base Protoss player facing off against a Zerg player on 5 bases with 5 tech and Adrenal Gland Lings in large numbers here.
This is not a good fight for the Stalkers, by the way. Choke point or no choke point. It doesn't really matter. Astrea's microing over here on the right side, but what he really needs to do is warp in a few more stalkers at home because these Lings are feisty. That Robo could have actually been picked up there. If the Lings click on it, it disappears in no time. I do think Astrea managed to sneak out a single ops, but he needs another base. He desperately needs to get his hands on one more base, and Scarlett is just refusing to let it happen.
Yeah, I mean, establishing that right-hand base has been so difficult. Do you think at this point you just try and establish the left-hand base? I mean, either one of them is going to be hard to defend.
Yeah, I don't think it really matters what you go for. Scarlett's going to be there, and Scarlett's going to deny it, mate.
Yeah, it's so difficult. Psystorm is going to be on the way. I think this is the kind of big play that Astrea is just hoping for, as he is sitting at half the supply of a nearly maxed out Scarlett at this point. I think Astrea knows he is on his final legs here, but he is just hoping and praying that he can get some big storms, some big juicy storms, and pull himself back in this game. He's got a lot of High Templar, and he has a lot of hoping to do.
Yep. I mean, the storms might be big, and maybe if we get a great battery overcharge, if there is a battery here, there is a tiny chance. Faceless Preppy goes down, but gets taken out immediately. There is storm right now. If there's enough energy, yes, there is. A couple of absolutely fantastic storms by Astrea, but there is still so much Zerg. And don't forget that these Lings are mighty powerful. GG gets called. Scarlett takes the 2-0 lead, and is just continuing to be very impressive over here at the ESL Masters Spring Championship trophy. What a run it's been so far.
She's playing really mechanically well in that early stage of the game, but just strategically, Kev, it feels like game number 1, game number 2, Scarlett has been able to just get a good read on exactly the strategic decisions she needs to make, where she's moving her army, when she's attacking, where she's attacking. She just keeps finding these nice strategic advantages, getting the lead, and then carrying it forward into a victory.
Yep, and obviously because he's bringing all the queens forward, we can see that over here. This was a crucial moment where if Astrea would have picked up just a little bit earlier that this was happening, these fights are often close now. If you look at the army supply right now, 51 against 76, but it's Blink Stalkers, plus 2 is about to come online. A lot of Zerg players will tell you, like, that doesn't look all that bad for the Protoss, but that's only ever the case if you have a cannon and a battery or 2 to fall back on. Without any static defense, and Stalkers just can't really hold the line, and you're going to be forced to sacrifice that base. Yeah, leave it up to Scarlett to cover the entire map in creep. And then even when Astrea from time to time had a competitive army, even once or twice, maybe at this point you can say, Astrea's got the better army, but it doesn't matter. He cannot step on creep. Scarlett has created so much map vision for herself, just makes her feel so safe at home. And then, yeah, even if the macro was slacking a little because the queens were battling oracles, it's okay, because he's going to have time to spend all that money.
Scarlett doing a fantastic job here, and Astrea now going to have his back up against the wall after Scarlett claiming a 2-0 lead there. Beautiful ending to that game as well. But I mean, this is going to be a tough run. I hate to say it, Kev, but Astrea's had a really tough run for this event. I mean, you have to remember he came in through the winner stage. He lost in those first 2 rounds and is now sitting in the knockout bracket at elimination. He is still looking for that first series victory here.
Yep, opens his weekend against Hero Marine. A really fun game on Crimson Court. If you guys missed it, you can definitely go back into the VODs and watch it. And that was a game where he was in all sorts of trouble for the longest time. And when he finally started winning it, he lost all his spellcasters. It's a silly moment. 20 minutes into the center of the map. And then you kind of go back, right? And that's not really how StarCraft II tournament works. And if buts and maybes don't count. But what if he does win that first game against Hero Marine? Maybe he's got a completely different weekend, right? He feels like, all right, it's my time to shine, taking the 1-0 lead. I should be able to win this series. You move into the winners match. Perhaps somehow you get momentum on your side. Lord knows. It did not go his way against Hero Marine. Dropped to the lower bracket. Lost against Shin. Now losing against Shin 1-2 I don't think is a bad result, because Shin really is top tier, especially I think in ZVP these days. But yeah, it's still not his weekend. Still looking for that first win. But it's going to be incredibly difficult against this Canadian Zerg who just seems to be on point after a bootcamp with her team. In the bottom right side of side Delta, up 2-0, it's Scarlett.
And up here on the top left-hand side of the map, this blue Protoss player who I know loves the crowd energy. So if you want him to continue to turn this series around, give your energy up for the blue Protoss player from Virtus Pro. He is Astrea.
if I go back to the Stone Age, I do think back of some of those weekends I had as a little Warcraft 3 gamer where the first game was very close and I was in the lead and then I didn't win, and that just kind of ruined the rest of the weekend. And that's obviously silly, right? If you're a pro gamer, especially if you're experienced like Astrea, you should be able to shake off a painful first loss and realize that the weekend is long and it doesn't all come down to the first game, but that really can have an impact on all these other games because you keep on telling yourself, why did I do that? Why did I throw? What if I just had a better start to the weekend? Then maybe you just start feeling different. And yes, it's about skill, mechanics, strategy, reading your opponent, but being in a mentally happy place whenever you're playing a big offline tournament is so incredibly important as well. Confidence truly is key in StarCraft.
Yeah, we have a little stat on the screen also saying that the last 2 best-of-5s that Astrea played versus Scarlett, he actually won being from 0-2 down, so he has absolutely mounted comebacks against Scarlett before, but I think you're absolutely right. In this kind of situation, I feel like Astrea is one of those players that he does his best when he's enjoying himself, when he's having fun, when he's vibing, and it's hard to find that same kind of vibe. It really takes a lot of experience to say, I've lost my first 2 series to the tournament. I'm heading into game number 3 at elimination point. If I lose any games from here on out for the rest of the series, can I still just bring out the most fun version of myself and really enjoy myself in this game? It's hard. It takes a really lot of experience to be able to do that.
Yep, and I hope that they can prove us wrong, right? And they can say like, nah, it's okay. I always have fun playing StarCraft. I'm Max Angel, and I'm one of the very best Protoss players out there. But yeah, we just need to see a few things go his way. And I mean, PvZ, we barely even spoke about it because the openings have not gone its way at all. But you look at some of the other world-class Protosses, and Adapts there, Oracle's there, and we're like, all right, 5 drones, kind of decent. If it's like 7 or 8 before the 5th minute mark, you're like, oh yeah, these are the kind of games that Protoss players look for. Astrea has barely been able to find some early game success, and we can talk about Blink Stalker, micro, and positioning and batteries all we want, but PvZs on this level, they are often decided in the first 6 minutes. Either Zerg's going to be very happy, or Protoss players are going to be very happy, and so far Astrea has just had nothing to be happy about in this best of 5.
It really, really is tough for Astrea to find a little bit of a break in all of this, and I really do wonder when Scarlett comes into these series, I feel like she's, again, very good strategically. She's very good at kind of reading her opponents, picking out the right build orders for the right times. And I do always wonder when you're up 2-0, this is one of those moments in a best of 5 where you say, well, there's never a better time to take a risk. But if everything's been working so far for Scarlett, does she need to take a risk? And what would you feel in this situation, Kev? Does Scarlett need to take a risk and go for some kind of cheeky aggression, throw Astrea off his game even more, or do you just continue as is?
Yes, he might have something special planned with Side Delta. I assume that this is Astrea's map pick as well, because obviously Golden Aura was Astrea's map pick, then Alcyone was Scarlett, her map pick. I guess that we are now, but at this point there's only very few maps left, so I think both players are kind of okay with Side Delta. I don't know what Scarlett likes. Maybe there's a chance that she throws in something feisty like a Spire build. We've seen Mudas be pretty popular, but that's mostly against the Protoss players that go heavy on the Immortals and sometimes even go Robo before Twilight. Astrea's not done that. Astrea goes for a Void Ray once more, so it's Oracle into Void Ray. What I do like though, Ravi, is that he's selling it like it's Golden Aura, but we can already see in the production tab that it's different. Probably it's going to be Zealots with +1 and charge, and I kind of like that, but Scarlett is not crazy, and I don't believe that she's going to be on autopilot, so I'm sure she's going to do whatever the hell she can to get a little sneak peek on what's happening on the other side of the map. If Scarlett would have the exact same response as he had on Golden Aura, where it's like nothing but drones forever, yes, he's going to straight up die against a bunch of Zealots with +1. But Scarlett will probably think like, I think you're playing the series here. You're making it seem like it's A, but it's actually going to be B. And it will be super interesting to keep a close eye on every single unit Scarlett sends to the other side of the map and see if she can catch a little something of what's happening. She's already going up to 67 drones.
Wow.
This is where she needs to start. I'd love to see a Baning Nest, by the way. I actually think I'm a bigger fan of a Baning Nest here than I am of a Roach Warren.
Yeah, we'll have to see if that's how she's going to end up reacting. She sends her Lings further forward, sees the Adept at the wall. Nothing too crazy so far. I mean, not a whole lot to read just yet. So this is going to be a little bit tough for Scarlett to try and figure out what exactly is going on. I guess in most, was there +1 weapons already being researched?
No,
air weapons?
Astrea waited with that for a little while. I was looking at that as well. Scarlett's obviously checking to see if the cybernetic score is doing something. It's not. Would have been very cool, by the way, if Astrea was going to fire that up. But then he might be like, no, now I'm actually like trying to oversell it because I didn't do that on Golden Aura. So if I'm doing it right now, it's like I'm trying a little bit too hard. Still no tech building though for Scarlett. No Roach Warren, no Baning Nest. Does have a decent amount of Lings. Is going to get the Spine, but that's a lot of Zealots. And the follow-up, by the way, double Robo. I love it.
Yep. Slow Zealots getting spotted by those Lings in the center of the map, but Charge is about to finish up, making them a nice, speedy Zealots. Double Robo follow-up, like you were saying, coming in right at the front lines, but this is where Astrea is looking to get some damage on. This is not something uncommitted. He needs to get something done here.
Yep, and I would just go for these Evo Chambers immediately and then send those Zealots deep into the main base. Couple Zealots into the natural. For the first time, it is best of 5. Astrea sees a scenario that he should be very happy with. The Baneling Nest ain't done yet. The Hydra Den ain't done yet. And even if these Lings do have +1 melee, the Zealots should be a little bit too powerful because they're 2 hitting these Zerglings.
They are absolutely slaughtering a lot of these Lings, but he's not actually fighting with a lot of these Zealots just yet. He's going for the drone line. He's finally pulling back some of these units, but realistically, Scarlett has not actually lost almost any drones. It's just Lings so far for the most part.
Yeah, we're not done yet though. Picture in picture, just a couple of Zealots is good enough to take out that Spine Crawler at the triangle base, and they're gonna get on top of drones now as well. Queen's obviously having a hard time. I mean, Scarlett's going to be very happy that Astrea didn't have like a pylon and a gate somewhere on this side of the map. Because 10 more Zealots, and I believe this would be the end. Now it looks like Scarlett is going to be able to clean this up eventually, but not before obviously losing that economic lead that she created for herself. Does still have all 5 hatcheries alive. But I think Astrea is going to be more than happy with this. He's up in workers. He should be able to warp in a lot of units. He still has all those gates, right? We're already working with double Robo. I personally would like to see a Robo Bay as well in the near future. But maybe Astrea thinks like, I don't want to be too crazy. Let's focus on Immortals and Archons first, and we'll worry about the Robo Bay later.
Resources lost, definitely favoring Astrea there by quite a bit. And the Oracle also still continuing to jump back in, finding a couple of drones that were mining gas, messing up that gas mining for Scarlett, and just being as annoying as possible. Scarlett is trying to just re-drone all of the drones that she wasn't able to make earlier on. All of those Lings that got killed off that could have been economy, she's now having to replenish. But in the meanwhile, Astrea should feel pretty comfortable defending that 4th base for a little bit, unless Scarlett really decided to go ham, but she's still firing up more drones.
Yeah, Scarlett obviously fell back all the way to the low 60s, and that's not a drone count you ever really want to be on, unless you're already maxed out and you're like, all right, this is it, we're just going to send it. Fires up a hive, by the way, and drops the Lurker, then 8 minutes and 25 seconds into the game after losing Queens, that many Zerglings, couple drones as well. I do kind of like it, because pure Hydroling Bane is just not going to cut it. It will never show up before the Immortal count is crazy high, before the Archons are out, and plenty of High Templars will be able to storm. So yeah, if that's not gonna work, why still try it? Why not just drone up? You have those 5 hatcheries to work with, and try to get some Lurkers out.
We've absolutely seen Lurkers turn around as EVP here and there, where especially I feel like a lot of pros players still struggle to find those perfect engagements against the Lurkers. Even if they are in an advantageous spot, you take one bad fight against them, one bad angle, and things can turn around so quickly. So I don't hate the decision in the slightest. And I like that Astrea is still staying active with these little Zealot run-bys, just keeping Scarlett a bit honest, making sure that she's dealing with a handful of these Zealots here and there, and just keep an eye out on what she's up to.
Let's assume nothing happens in the next 2 minutes, right? When it comes to somebody taking lead or finding a great fight, taking great damage. Would you prefer a Robo Bay and more Robos, or would you like to see Astrea maybe start dropping some Stargates and also complement his current army with a couple carriers or something?
It's tough, because I feel like if you said like a minute and a half or something, I almost would be okay with just continuing to make the Immortals and complementing with additional gateway units and putting on the pressure, kind of like he's doing this move out right now. If he did decide to not do anything for a bit, I would not hate a Robobay at all.
And then there's a few more Robos, right? Like,
yeah.
Why do we have to stay on 2?
yeah, no, I'm actually totally okay with that. This is one of those scary moments, though, where you see the Protoss army, you're like, it doesn't look that big, but all of those units hit so hard. And this can be such a glorious fight for the Protoss, or it can be a miserable fight for the Protoss.
Yeah, I think as long as you don't walk into the Lurkers when they're all burrowed, you're going to be okay, especially because these Lurkers, yes, we have Hive Tech, but we don't really have Seismic Spines yet, we don't have Adaptive Talents. And by the way, Astrea has answered our question. He says, no, +1 air weapons, Fleet Beacon. We don't have to go too crazy and build all the Stargates immediately, but let's at least start getting ready for that final stage of late game Protoss. Don't hate it, completely fine, love the move out as well. You kill a hatchery, you disengage, as long as he doesn't do anything silly, because these are a lot of High Templars, and if a bunch of Zerglings can get on top of them, yes, you can spam storms, but then often you're storming your own High Templars as well, and they die. And Scarlett, her Lurkers do have Seismic Spines now. You're gonna have to respect them a little bit more. The Nidus just finished up. We already saw one devastating Nidus early today on Side Delta, out of all maps. Let's hope that Astrea is paying attention.
Yeah, different matchup, but still just as scary. Love the little stasis traps coming down right around where that creep was, but Astrea may have to have that recall ready and off cooldown.
What's very cool about world-class Zerg players like Scarlett is that they'll never just knight us and hope it comes online. What Scarlett is gonna do is like, hey, here's 30 Zerglings. You should really pay attention to all these Zerglings. I've got links here, I've got links there. And while as a Protoss, you feel like, I'm defending everywhere and I'm pulling my probes away. That's when that Nidus gets dropped. I would love to see Scarlett use those links on the minimap right now. Those are at 12 o'clock. Those are the ones that you kind of want to send into that triangle. And right when that's happening, or you feel Astrea is looking elsewhere, that's when you try to get that Nidus up. Because this game is a game that's favoring Astrea, but if Scarlett is able to unload 20 lurkers in the main base, Astrea is going to have a very difficult fight taking that fight. And here we go. Here are the units, and at the same time the Nidus, and the Nidus is so important, Robbie.
It really is. Now these Lings and Banelings are going to be able to bust on through. It looks like the Zealots and the Immortals are looking for opportunity to try and get something on the other side of the map, but the Lings and the Banelings make their way on in. The Nidus Storm comes on up, but it won't be alive for very long because the Zealots take quick care of that. 11 probes going down, but a lot of drones going down on the other side of the map thanks to the Zealots and Immortals that didn't come home.
All hell broke loose over here. We're looking at 3 or 4 different fights at once. These Lings having a good old time. This is not an army that has a lot of splash damage, but it's still up there. Oh, Astrea not paying attention there for a split second. In the end, it's okay though. The ultimate crisis averted for the Protoss player because Astrea took care of the first Nidus. And the first Nidus should be the most scary one, the most terrifying one, especially if you're A, out of position, and B, you're battling on 2 different fronts. That's still a lot of spiky boys. What's the lurk count right now for Scarlett? I guess 15 or so? 17 lurkers, but these storms are absolutely fantastic.
We have the Revelation also out on these lurkers, so the Immortals are able to get quite a bit of damage on, but now that the shields are gone, they do need to back off for a little bit. Another Nidus Storm going to get shut down. Astrea is so on top of those, but these lurkers are still finding that extra damage on those probes mining.
You think with a couple Zealots coming in from the top right, that should be good enough, because those storms were amazing and the Immortal count is so high. We're still looking at 10 as a time warp has gone down as well. The mothership actually died as it flew over a couple of those Hydras that were just chilling there, working on probes. I would love to see Astrea just take care of the lurkers on his side of the map, but he feels that it's still time to find some more damage with 5 Immortals, 2 High Templars, and a Zealot.
Scarlett's economy is kind of shattered at this point. I mean, especially as she loses the mining at this location, she is effectively, I want to say, like maybe a 1-base mining Zerg, if even that, really.
Yep. Astrea is going to lose that important base as well, but yeah, that doesn't make up for the 3 drones and the hatchery that's gone down. If all of these Hydras and Lynx, by the way, they should be able to jump on top of this army. Mothership died, so I don't think we've got double recall available, and I believe we've already used recall once. But yeah, Astrea's numbers keep on going up. Meanwhile, Scarlett's having an incredibly tough time replacing some of those units, and there is one hero, Zealot, just going to town on drones and Lynx in the main base. Astrea has pretty much done it at this point.
He really is in a fantastic position at this point, and the carriers are just going to be the cherry on top of the cake that he has been able to build them up for himself. It's been a very, very rough series, and he's going to be losing a couple of these Immortals, which definitely sucks a little bit, but the warping of Zealots, target firing down the Lurker Den, something that Scarlett truly just cannot afford to replace right now. So I was going to try and save it. It is going to be a little bit too late. And Astrea really cementing himself a solid lead in this game.
Yep, this is one last thing that Astrea needs to do, and that is take care of these lurkers. And if there's nothing to thank for these lurkers, I do really think that it should be good enough. But Astrea says, hey, if there's no anti-air, maybe my oracles can just lead the charge. We've got a Void Ray as well, and that is going to do it. All 6 lurkers get picked off. This Nidus is going to get picked up as well, and Scarlett is just running out of steam. Lynx do get on top of an exposed base, and that's nice. Few more probes as well for Scarlett, but Scarlett needs a whole lot more than a few workers.
Yeah, Scarlett is doing her absolute best to be as annoying as possible to really make Astrea work for that W, but he gets his first win on the board in this series. Can he do it, Kev? Can he mount another 0-2 comeback?
Yeah, will history repeat itself? What is it, like a month ago or 5 weeks ago that we had that big series in the online regionals that obviously let Astrea in the end go into the upper, or the grand final where Trigger was waiting. As Trigger, I believe, was the one who won the upper bracket final, if I recall that correctly. And then Astrea, of course, went on to win it all once more. Because that's just what he does, man. I don't know how he does it, but that's just what he does. He keeps on winning the regionals. It obviously all started with Astrea going Oracle into Void Ray, similar to Golden Aura, but where on Golden Aura, Astrea had a very slow follow-up. This time around, it was Hero and his 8 gates and +1 Zealots with charge. If Scarlett would have just dropped the Baneling Nest a little while earlier, basically when we were talking about it, as he thought perhaps he would need it, you know, you have 6-7 Banelings there, and that looks like a completely different game. Those Zealots won't get anywhere near as much damage done. But the moment that those Zealots went through that first evo, That was the first time Astrea truly had something to be very happy about in this best of 5, and I think it's safe to say he played it out very well.
Yeah, very nice job by Astrea to just sell that story like you were saying, going for that similar Void Ray opening and everything, but really just the Zealots not getting scouted until they were making their journey across the map as Charge was not even finished just yet, making sure that he's hitting the absolute perfect timing, giving Scarlett as little time as possible to really deal with that, knocking down the Eva Chamber, all of those moves really cementing that victory there. And our hometown hero is finally getting one on the board, but he still does have a tough road ahead of him. Scarlett has absolutely had a solid read on him in those first 2 games, and Astrea still has to find a way to make sure he can win the next 2 games and make sure that he can deal with the fact that Scarlett has been playing so well this entire tournament.
Of course, there are a few more series happening while we are currently enjoying Astrea versus Scarlett. Scarlett, her teammate Lambo, is currently all tied up with his good friend Spirit. So a nice little European match in the first round of the knockout stage, 1-1. We had Classic getting the best of Elaser in apparently an absolute nail-biter, as Elaser was down, he managed to send it to game 5, but it's Classic with a 3-2 victory over Elaser, who will move on. And Cure and Nightmare are currently all tied up in the first round of the knockout bracket.
All right, guys, we're heading into game number 4. We're going to be starting over here in the top right-hand side of the map. Still 1 game away from victory from Shopify Rebellion, the red Zerg player. She is Scarlett.
In the top left side of Ghost River, representing his Neil team, welcome back Virtuous Pro. It's the man who's fighting out of San Diego, California. It's Astrea. Ghost River to me screams roaches, ravages, and swarmhost. I know that Scarlett loves swarmhost, I think especially on some maps in particular. As Astrea, by the way, tried to hedge block, goes into the main. We'll see that Scarlett went for an earlier pull, an earlier gas, because this is obviously gas and pull before the expand. This is also something you truly have to respect, by the way. I often think back of that grand finals Ryan Katowice between Rogue and Zest, where Zest scouted these kinds of openings a few times, and he was like, yeah, don't really need to do anything. And we're like, no, like, if you see this on the ladder, you get all in 100 out of 100 times. And maybe in a professional tournament, not necessarily. And there's a good chance that Scarlett just opens up like this to scare Astrea a little, but you still have to respect. Just make sure that you keep on scouting if you're Astrea, because roaches, ravages, lings, link flood, bailing balls, all of it is possible if they go pool and a very early guess.
Scarlett especially is the kind of player who is not afraid to throw out those kind of build orders, especially if she is going to be up in a series already and she's willing to take those risks. Something that comes from many, many years of experience, coming all the way back from StarCraft II in 2011. It really is a scary thing to deal with, just the fact that Scarlett can have such polar opposites of playing those late game stages, playing the early game all-ins, and playing those mid-game cheeses.
He's still mining gas. Actually, and it feels like that's a fully saturated extractor, right? So
yeah, all 3.
Speed on the way, Roachborn, there you go. As I said, you don't see it very often, but if I see this on the ladder, Robbie, all my alarm bells go off. And I cancel the next, I build a fort immediately. No, don't do that, guys. You need shield battery overcharge. But yeah, Astrea might just look at this and be like, yeah, okay, it's kind of scary, but it's not all that scary. And it's so important to gather as much vision as possible, because Scarlett is going to be mega aggressive here on Ghost River. Goes for the 1 gauge fast spend Robo, by the way. That's technically a great choice, but you still need a battery.
Yeah, he's still going to need to have an idea of what he's up against. Now, the Adept did manage to take out 2 of the Zerglings there for Scarlett. 4 more Lings are seen in the center of the map. 6 Roaches on the way, and the Adepts, I think they shaded backwards, so they're not actually going to be able to get as fast of a scout over here on any of this.
No, like you're also afraid of losing the Adept, you know, because if it's in a link flood and you just don't have enough firepower to keep the Lings at bay, you're like, okay, that's annoying too. But if it's Roaches, that kind of requires a different response. Astrea has all the right tools to hold this. Get another pilot on the low ground, you get a shield battery. But that's not something that pro players do unless they are 100% convinced they're getting all in. And since he's getting a Prism, that gives me the feeling that Astrea is looking to find damage. He doesn't need to find damage. Will these Shades see it? Oh, I love it by Scarlett, pulling those units away, keeping Astrea in the dark for a few extra seconds. And every second right now is so magical for Scarlett. Without a battery, without a second pilot here, Astrea is in all sorts of trouble.
Roaches are going to be diving in on top of those Adepts. But the wall is open for a moment. The sentry throws down the force field. Warp Warp Gates are trying to finish up. The Force Field gets knocked down once. Not another Corrosive Bile available. These Roaches trying to target fire down. It looks like an Adept over there, dude. They do manage to get it, but these Roaches on the inside of the wall do get taken out.
That's actually pretty good so far by Astrea. I think he's doing about as well as he could with how little units he had available, but that pylon is indeed starting to run low on HP. Queens are even making their journey here as well. The shield battery is here. Don't forget that the Warp Prism could also power that shield battery. Scarlett knows that he has to take care of that battery immediately, but there is an Immortal in the mix now. And a Warp Prism and an Immortal should always allow a Brothers player to dream. Not too many Zerg units remaining anymore. Is Astrea pulling off an absolutely magical hold here?
One of the Warp Gates are depowered, so the number of reinforcements is definitely going to be lowered, but like you were saying, Astrea keeping all of these units alive with that Warp Prism. Corrosive Bile is going to stop it up with the Stalkers. It does get taken out over there. Adept very low on hit points. Another one of the pylons getting very, very low on hit points, and those Corrosive Biles should be able to finish the job.
Yep, Scarlett really doesn't have too many units here anymore. Sure, Astrea has lost a couple of workers, but he's going to be okay with this. Any worker lead is obviously fine. Some very low HP units for Astrea inside of that Warp Prism, but for now, Astrea is going to push the Zerg units back, using that Warp Prism right now to power at least one of these gateways. I would have loved to see a shield battery on the high ground, right? All that Warp Prism micro would have been awesome if you can just heal up those units a little bit.
It would have made things so much easier. Actually, the Cybernetics Core manages to survive over there, and I want to know, Scarlett did not stop making units during any of this time. She didn't say, all right, this all-in is over. No, it's just been non-stop Lings and Roaches and Ravagers.
I think Scarlett got a tiny bit impatient right after that first force field went down. I think in her mind it was always going to be just a single force field, but it's a second force field that actually bought Astrea so much time and allowed him to kill 2 Roaches for pretty much nothing. Links could work indeed on the Cybernetics score. Astrea is looking really good in this game, but it could still all fall apart real quick as well.
Yeah, there's no Warp Prism to save that Immortal on the low ground, and remember that the Warp Prism is not here either, so that Ling surround on the Immortal is almost going to get a Corrosive Bile finishes it off, and Scarlett snags a nice little victory there, especially since the recall happens.
And don't forget, Cybercore just died, so you can't really warp in any more sentries or stalkers. A couple of slow zealots is not going to do a whole lot for you. With the Warp Prism and 2 Immortals, Astrea should be fine, but you can't build any batteries here either. It is still scary, right? I feel like Astrea is almost there. You can see the finish line, but it's still a lot of Zerg units that are going to come his way. One micro error and it will still be a Scarlett victory.
And this is so dangerous too because the wall is completely open. The sentry does not have a lot of energy. Even just having the Lings run straight into the main base will be extremely problematic because Astrea has power units, but it's a small number of units.
And what I love that Scarlett is doing is that he's actually banking up the numbers up to the point where a little bit of Warp Prism micro is not going to make the difference anymore, right? Immortals have a very hard time killing a crazy amount of Zerglings, and since the Cybercore was done, here we go. It's a full stand for Scarlett, and now finally there is a shield battery, but is that just too late?
Another Immortal is going to pop on out and make its way down toward that bottom of the ramp. The Lings are going after these pylons yet again. This is going to depower one of those few remaining gateways. The Immortals are still standing strong though, and they are putting in some serious work on this army.
Yeah, Astrea will be able to keep these Immortals alive for days with that Warp Prism, but his life could have been so much easier than what it actually is right now. Scarlett is going to try to get on top of these batteries. Corrosive Biles taking out a couple of the Zerglings too. Shield battery overcharge for a split second. Heals up some of these Immortals. Scarlett will get some probes, will get a gateway, a couple pylons, but he will not get the kill. And it is safe to say that Scarlett was looking for the kill. You're looking at 4 Immortals and a Prism at this point, as Immortal number 5 is on the way. And Scarlett is still just kind of building units for the longest time. Now finally is going to drone up a little bit. But the biggest problem here as a Zerg player, as these 2 Queens are so far off creep, Zergling's going to try to save it, and I do think will save it. If Scarlett can get a little more done in the natural, perhaps he can turn this into a game, but he's going to have such a hard time, if this game stabilizes, not to take silly damage from the Warp Prism and the Immortals.
Yeah, another one of the Queens does end up falling, so the Warp Prism is going to have even less to worry about. Another shield battery fishing up on that high ground is going to make things so much easier for Astrea to mount the defenses. Yes, he loses the gateway. Yes, he doesn't really have a lot of warp gate warp-ins, but his Immortal count has just grown ridiculous. The Warp Prism micro has been so clutch throughout this entire game.
Yep. Oh man, what a game here on Gulls River. Scarlett still on 23 drones, is trying to macro her way out of this. And it's not the point that he will die immediately. I think what he's most afraid of is just that he's going to die slowly but steady.
Yeah.
As a Zerg player, you kind of need some tech, right? You need a strong economy to deal with War Prisms and Immortals. They will always find some damage. Astrea's most likely not going to do anything silly, and this Prism is still incredibly healthy. It has never really taken any damage.
I mean, the queen count actually also got reduced earlier because so many of them moved across the map. So even the fear of your War Prism taking a lot of damage is not that high. And I love that he just focus fires down the queen, because you take care of those, there's not really a lot to be afraid of.
I'm smiling because look at the minimap, Robbie.
I do know one perfectly well-known North American strat on the ladder, which is I'm really far behind. What if I just hide an expansion? Maybe things will work out.
As a Protoss, you see it pretty often. As a Terran, not that often, but every now and then to try to sneak it in. The hidden Zerg expand is a unique one to me because Creep kind of gives it away. On the other hand, why would Astrea check the bottom right side of Ghost River at this point, right? There really is not a whole lot of reason for him to do so. And if this actually works somehow for Scarlett, if she's going to be able to get some value out of it, I will absolutely love it. And it's another NA classic for the ages.
It truly will be if that ends up being the case. But Scarlett has still got a bit of a road ahead of her to try and make sure she doesn't take too much damage to the War Prism. Immortal Harassment. I think she finally does have a critical mass of those units. But speaking of critical mass, that is so many Immortals.
Yeah, it's a ridiculous amount of Immortals, but Immortals do have a hard time battling Zerglings, Ravages. That's kind of where you want some of these other units in the mix. And it's kind of funny as well, because now we're 10 minutes in, and it's just a couple of basic Zerg units battling a Prism and 2 Immortals. But hey, if anybody has had a lot of practice getting cannon rushed, I would say it's Scarlett, with all of her years lathering on NA. And so probably considered this at one point as like this is some sort of a weird cannon rush scenario where I've got a low economy, they've got a low economy, and there's a Prism and 2 Immortals flying around. But yes, he's been here and done that.
Yeah, this is very reminiscent of a printf game for sure. Absolutely. In many ways.
Turkey Dano.
Yeah, eat your heart out. We got that Roach Warren being rebuilt, a Baneling Nest also on the way, but you just see the stark difference in the tech that's being built right now. Scarlett, Roach Warren, Baneling Nest, Astrea, a Templar Archives, Charge, +1 weapons. It's just a very different point in the game for both these players.
Astrea obviously needs to make sure that he always keeps an eye on his War Prism, because the Ravager count is pretty high, and Zerg players do love to get lucky and spam those corrosive balls, and once in a blue moon it will net. I love that Scarlett is taking this base, because if he never takes this base, then Astrea, his alarm bells will start going. I was like, okay, this is just a little bit too weird. Why are you not even trying to expand, right? I mean, this hidden base could eventually start playing a very big role. Man, as long as Scarlett doesn't have a lair, it is going to be difficult. Because even if Scarlett gets a couple Banelings, and we love Banelings against a lot of Zealots with +1, that's great and all, but you have to worry about Archons too. And all these Immortals.
Oh,
and
the Troll transfer.
Oh, that's bad. That's bad. Actually,
that's a big reveal. Away. Yeah.
Oh, no.
Well, it's going to make things a lot more awkward, because now Scarlett has to dedicate resources to ensuring that that location is defended against the War Prism, but it means that the rest of the attack is going to be a lot more effective. The Immortal's getting really low on hit points there, but does get the pickup. This is a tough one, and I have to say Astrea has not halted Immortal production at all, Kev. He is, I think, going up to now number 11 there. Or, yeah, number 11 Immortal.
I mean, this is Astrea still having a bit of that fun, right? That we were talking about earlier. As Astrea now sees the creep in the bottom right side, and at this point, your heart does sink a little. You're like, how long has this been a thing? You know, am I actually in trouble? I don't think Astrea thinks he's in trouble. He'll look at his army and be like, my army is awesome. These are slow Banelings. It is one absolute last final all-in coming out of Scarlett, because Scarlett has never fired up a lair. Scarlett doesn't have access to Baneling speed. Truly, this is it. Upgrades favor Astrea. Does Astrea have a couple batteries and cannons, by the way, near the third base? I mean, there is a world where Scarlett, her army is still great. And I do really think, by the way, that this War Prism and those 2 Immortals, they need to be at home. Right now, Astrea, these units need to be at home. Otherwise, your Immortals could get surrounded and they could all die. Yeah,
so many of these Immortals are going to be very vulnerable to the Lings if they manage to get surrounded. But the Archons holding strong on the left-hand side of this engagement.
Oh, no.
The Lings on the right-hand side do manage to break through, though. Now it's just the Immortals. The War Prism is finally back home. The Archon is putting in some work against those Lings. Does Astrea have enough to actually defend over here? It becomes way closer than it should have been.
It's 5 Immortals, a Zealot, and a Prism at the moment, and there are still 22 Zerglings out on the map. I don't really quite see them. That's a fantastic attack by Scarlett. That really is about as good as he was ever going to do. And that's of course because that War Prism was not there. If the Prism would have been there, that fight really would have looked different. Astrea did recall it rather quickly in the end. This game is just a gift that keeps on giving, because Scarlett has been so incredibly committed for such a long time. And somehow we keep on finding ourselves in these scenarios where Scarlett's in trouble, but she's more than allowed to dream, as that previous fight really was damn good for her.
It was amazing, and she's still got a lot of these links if she finds those Immortals by themselves without the War Prism or away from the shield battery, or the fact that there's no wall of the natural still, so the Immortal in the main base going to be taking damage, the shield battery getting target fire down, which means that the pros of the natural are going to also be vulnerable. Suddenly, all the alarm bells are ringing for Astrea.
Oh, look at the natural. That's so many workers going down. In the main base, we have workers going down as well. And Astrea did not have a great economy. He's still microing with his War Prism on the other side of the map, but Astrea really needs to start paying attention to whatever is happening at home. 24 probes have just gone down. Astrea is only down to 28 workers. It is still Lair Tech, by the way. Imagine, or excuse me, Hatchery Tech. Imagine if that Templar guess was a Dark Shrine. A Dark Shrine could have won this game.
He literally just won the game outright. Yeah. But man, I cannot believe it. Astrea is so good at scrappy games. He thrives in these kind of scrappy situations.
He's not that
but
yet.
Astrea, he's up against the ropes for sure. We'll see if he can still manage to make some kind of defense happen, but the wall not being in the natural still hurts so much.
Couple of links morphed into Banelings in the main base, so a few more workers have gone down. That's an additional 7 or 8 workers falling on the side of Astrea, down to 29, but what Astrea does have is a really good army, and at this point Scarlett's probably wondering, like, should I like tech up? Is that an option? I don't know if that's an option, as the Archons and Immortals are leading the charge, and they are still more powerful than those Ravages and Lings out there. But what a game, man. This is insane. This reminds me a bit of that really unique game that Bly and Neeb had once upon a time. Yeah. That just kept on going on forever.
The never-ending Bly all-in.
Yeah, well,
that's kind of what we're getting right now, is +2 weapons is done for a Protoss player against a Zerg that doesn't have a lair.
You'd still think, is it too late for a Dark Shrine? Like, I don't think it is too late for a Dark Shrine. Hatchery Tech, 4 hatcheries, a single Sport Rod. That's the only detection that Scarlett had. I mean, come on, we definitely had a window at any given moment where we could have snuck in a Dark Shrine.
No, absolutely. I mean, Astrea's not exactly lacking gas in a lot of these situations either. He's got a low work account, but this is one of the beauties about mining gas and having Archon-heavy armies, is that if you have a lot of bases but don't have a lot of workers, your gas mining doesn't actually get affected nearly as much.
And Scarlett, by the way, has rebuilt that hatchery that she lost, her triangle, what was supposed to be her third base, that died earlier against those Immortals. It's actually been rebuilt, so you can probably transfer a couple of workers as well. We have a few more slow banelings, keep that in mind, because we have never teched up, so we don't have any of those cool upgrades. As Astrea now fires up Storm. I mean, that's cool enough, but it's going to take a little while, and he's not that rich. The Zergling count is high. Can't really run Zerglings into that many Archons. Oh, I love those Zealots, by the way, on hold position, making it more difficult. As we have a couple of Banelings coming in from the left side. Absolutely love this game. Can these slow Banes find what they are looking for? It doesn't really seem to be the case.
Yeah, it looks like they all do get taken out. Maybe one probe dying over there, but the Ling's going to continue to try and be so annoying in the natural. This is getting awkward, though, because every time Scarlett does these run-bys, she is also sacrificing all these units, so she needs to find damage with these.
Might be an opening at the third base at this point, as there's only one battery that's going to normally help out there. Couple of corrosive balls get spammed. Immortals are forced to disengage. Scarlett finds more worker damage, finds a pylon perhaps as well, getting a battery. Another pylon getting picked up. Does spot that the Templar Archives is spinning, so should know that Storm is on the way. What can she really do about that? Yeah, not a whole lot. You just kind of have to accept it.
Yeah, I feel like she did find a little bit of worker damage there, but Astrea is still maintaining a little bit of that worker lead, and now Storm finished on up. I know a couple of the warp gates got to power, but Astrea should be able to repower those, and I feel like Astrea is going to be happy with how those trades went.
Yep. Maybe Scarlett this was thinking like, maybe your main and natural like almost mined out as well, so you're just a one-base Protoss, and if you're just gonna sit there as a one-base Protoss forever, perhaps I can still turn this into something. Are we ever going to see a lair, by the way? The Dark Shrine threat.
I don't want to see it anymore.
Right?
I just, out of principle at this point, I don't want to see it anymore, Kev.
I do like this, by the way. Scarlett trying to create one more attack path. Even if there are not too many workers in the main base and the natural to kill, there's still a lot of pylons. There are still a couple of very important production facilities. So getting extra ways to find yourself into the natural or main base of your opponent is obviously fantastic.
And that's exactly what Scarlett looked like she was threatening there for a moment. Looks like she was going to try and reveal this army first, draw it even further out of position, then try to move in forward.
You can win this fighting, just Scarlett, right? Like, that's a lot of roaches and ravages, Robbie.
No shield battery over there either for those Archons to help us stay alive. Storm is coming down on the south side, so Astrea should have no problem winning that engagement. And at the other side, it looks like it is getting a lot closer.
Shield battery overcharge from the high ground coming in clutch. One of the Immortals does get surrounded by the Zerglings. Those two Archons, if they stay near the battery, they were going to be okay, but they're going a little bit further away from the battery. I still think this is a fight where Scarlett should be able to do well, but where are those extra Immortals of Astrea? They should be coming real soon. The recall gets activated, 2 Archons die, but that's a lot of Immortals, and that's when the roaches have to start running away.
Yeah, but we see the picture-in-picture that Astrea is actually managing to hold on the south side as well at the same time, cleaning up a lot of this army for Scarlett. Scarlett finally dipping in supply below Astrea for the first time in a long time in this game.
Slow roaches off creep obviously have an incredibly difficult time. Don't forget that Astrea managed to get +2 a long time.
Yeah.
We are seconds away from +3 melee for Astrea. And maybe all of that would have been okay-ish for Scarlett if she at least was able to cancel the 4th base, right? And she was close. He put a lot of damage on it, but she did not manage to cancel this Nexus or kill this Nexus. And that means that this game is now looking perhaps more grim than it's done in a very, very long time for Scarlett.
It really is. And Scarlett's going to make another hatchery, but she still refuses to fire up that lair as we now approach the 20-minute mark almost of a Zerg lair without a lair. And I like that Scarlett is just hard committing to it, but this may be one of the final big commitments she can really make because it does feel like she's starting to run out of steam here.
+3 melee for Archons and Immortals against a Zerg player without a lair. Yeah, slow roaches against Immortals with +3. That is just never going to work. GG gets called. Astrea wins an epic 20-minute game on Ghost River that started off with a 18-drone roachling attack that had so much potential, by the way. If it wasn't for that second force field that shaved off those 2 roaches, I really think that Scarlett finds the damage that she's looking for. Perhaps straight up wins, but I don't think she expected back-to-back force fields. There was a single force field that took care of it with the Ravager, and then she led the charge with the roaches. Well, if those were 12 links streaming in, that would have gone a whole lot better. It's these 2 roaches that acted such a good force field by Astrea.
They really, really did. Astrea managing to mount such a narrow defense there. Getting the Warp Prism back immediately as well was such an important decision for Astrea to make. And also continue to just make more and more of those Immortals after basically your Warp Gates are depowered. You didn't have Warp Gate potential or many gateway units being made in the first place.
Like, the game was kind of over at this point, but because Astrea was flying around with the Warp Prism and the 2 Immortals, if these Immortals cannot get saved by a Prism, now it's coming in from the top left after recall was used. But this is where Scarlett found an absolutely fantastic fight against an army that was normally a lot stronger than hers. But yeah, with that many Zerglings getting full surrounds on Immortal, and truly an NA game for the ages. I absolutely loved it. I think almost everyone loved it, besides Scarlett.
Yeah, and I will definitely guarantee you, those are one of the kind of games that Astrea absolutely loves, walks out of and says, what an absolutely ridiculous game. This is why StarCraft is really fun. I'm ready to move to game number 5, and I have to say, Kev, when we were talking about Scarlett being up 2-0, talking about Astrea having lost his first 2 series, again, understandable, tough opponents in that kind of winner stage, but it just has not been his event. It was hard for him to find that kind of motivation, or it's very difficult to find that kind of fun. But after a series like this and how that last game went, I have to imagine Max Angel's going to be in a pretty good spirits right now.
These are the games that Max lives for. We know it. He loves it. I think at one point he could have done a few things different as well. And of course he could have re-walled off and he could have gone for a slightly more complex army. But at one way he's like, oh no, I embrace the craziness. If you're forcing me to stabilize on 5 Immortals, a Warp Prism, and 1 slow Zealot, I'm gonna build 6 more Immortals because I'm Astrea, and this is the kind of stuff that I love. Incredibly fun series between these 2. Kind of series that they deserve. Could be a premiere, perhaps for the first time this weekend. A player from the Shopify Rebellion will lose against somebody that's not on the Shopify Rebellion, because that record is still going strong. Jan getting a win over Trigger, and at the moment Lambo's also taking the 2-1 lead over Spirit. Last time it was Scarlett being up 2-0 and Astrea completing the reverse sweep in the online regionals. Will this time it be the other way around? We do go to game 5, or will it still be Scarlett?
Scarlett actually is showing that Liquipedia page right now, checking how her teammates are doing and everything, seeing who she might be playing off against. I'd actually love if Lambo was not in game right now, is just watching the series and thinking, I have to play the winner of these 2. I have to play one of against players who are playing like these incredibly insane strategies, these unhinged strategies. This is a North American special, but regardless, one of these players is going to get to advance on after the course of this next game. And Astrea just taking a short little break.
What was our 5th map again? I know we vetoed Dynasty, Amphion, Crimson,
Ghost
Board.
River, and then...
What is that?
Ooh.
I know. Oceanborn?
I think it was Oceanborn. I think you're right.
We haven't played Oceanborn yet, and I don't think Oceanborn was vetoed. So, well, that's a very standard map to potentially end things on.
I actually really was surprised that it came as the final map. I thought it would come earlier.
Yeah, I think like both players, both races in general are okay with it.
Yeah.
But it's maybe not like your favorite. I totally understand Golden Aura from a Protoss point of view.
Yeah.
I think Scarlett picking Site Delta as her first map. Maybe a tiny bit surprising, but nothing too wild, right?
Yeah. And we've definitely seen how the maps have influenced some of the strategies picked, especially when we talk about that Golden Aura or even the Site Delta or Ghost River. Actually, another good example of it. They really have been two players who have heavily considered what map are we going to be going to, how are we going to try and approach this in terms of what builders are strongest on this map. And man, I feel like Scarlett has definitely been losing a lot of that momentum in the last few games. That absolute stalwart defense against anything that Astrea was kind of throwing out at her from the first 2 games really doesn't feel like she's had the chance to kind of maintain that in the last few games.
Oh, do you know what's coming up next on the main stream, by the way?
I think we're going to be going to one of the, I don't know which, but one of the round 2 matches.
So like Gumio, Clam, Beyond Stats, or like across the entire bracket?
I believe it's probably going to be one of those, and I'm imagining...
All right, we have just heard an audible that we have decided to go for Stats versus Beyond. So that's going to be the next best of 5 here on the main stage. Do love it. Haven't seen Beyond yet, right? On the main stage.
No, haven't seen Beyond on the main stage yet, and he's been tearing through a lot of people.
Yeah. He obviously has been playing really well. And Beyond a TVP at an offline event, I feel like it's guaranteed fireworks. So such a fun day. We've got 8 best of 5s in total, and this is only our 2nd best of 5 today. As it seems that Max Angel has returned to his seat for that one final game on Oceanborn. He'll be like, this place again. I've been here before, down 0-2, things not really going my way. And in game 3 and 4, we turn things around. One final game, Oceanborn. Something special you'd love to see from Scarlett?
Oh man, I feel like it's a little bit scary for me when I think about this, but going into a game number 5, Scarlett sometimes not afraid to throw out some of those super early cheeses yet again. Oceanborn though, I don't know. I wouldn't actually hate to see a much later macro game, because I feel like the closest we got to it was, what was it, game number 3, where we had a lot of like the lurkers and everything kind of getting started, but it really wasn't the feel of a late game situation.
Because it wasn't fair, because Astrea got himself in a very good spot, right?
Exactly.
Like, you have a lot of the games in StarCraft 2 these days where players are good enough to hang in there for a little while, and they are ready to get either some carriers out or like play some late game Terran, get a couple Liberators and goals. But if one player is just ahead, then it's not truly the straight up macro game that people love, where both players have a bit of money in the bank and are able to make moves without necessarily feeling like they are committed. It felt that every move Scarlett made there was incredibly committed because of all the damage he took from the Zealots. So I'm with you. There's also, I don't know, I wouldn't hate just like one push, like old school Roach Ravager Queen, German Taxi, you know?
German Taxi,
But what Lambo absolutely loves, because I do live for those moments where it's game 5, we just saw a ridiculously cool game 4, and then it comes down to that final bit of maybe Blink Stalker Micro, one battery overcharge for the Aegis, one pickup on the Immortal. It doesn't always have to last forever, Fear Dragon.
Yeah.
Sometimes that one push at minute 8 or 9, perfectly fine.
I do feel like that is the more likely scenario in my mind between these two players, but we are heading into one final game for this best of 5 to determine who moves on to the next round and who gets their tournament run cut out early. Starting down here on the bottom right-hand side of the map, our Canadian Zerg player representing Shopify Rebellion. She is Scarlett.
It's been an amazing tournament for her so far. It's been a now much better second day as well for this man in the top left side. It was a vintage Astrea performance there on Ghost River. A lot of Immortals, War Prisms, all the good stuff. Representing Virtus Pro, it's Astrea.
You know, historically, Kev, I really do think that while Scarlett is absolutely the kind of player who might find those later game stages, I feel like it's a little bit more common that she gets aggressive.
Go ahead. What do you think of this, by the way, Ravi? Game 5. I mean, you were starting to talk, and I saw your eyes perk up as well, where you're like, I'm talking about something else, but Nexus first.
Yeah, this is a bold move for Astrea, and it's scary to me because Scarlett has absolutely shown in that last game that she's willing to get aggressive. I know in game number 5, she's not afraid to get aggressive. She's not afraid to put it all on the line in that final game in a best-of-5 series, much like Jaedong did to her way back in the day. It's a story she'll never forget. But I mean, so far, what really can Scarlett do to punish this kind of opening at this point?
Not a whole lot, actually. Like, Nexus first is not that common, and it's not because it's super risky, because it's actually really not that risky as long as you scout. Obviously, if you play Nexus first and you don't scout, yeah, then you're rolling the dice, and you can be in all sorts of trouble against different openings. But if you go Nexus first and you scout early enough, you can see the timing of the gas, the timing of the pool. There isn't really anything that Scarlett can do right now. It's like, oh, you went Nexus first, let me go ahead and build a whole lot of circling. That would just be the end of her immediately. There will be a wall off, there will be a battery, cyber core, sentry, whatever. That doesn't really work. But the main reason why I feel like we don't see Nexus first ultra often is I like playing it a lot myself, but it has one downside. That's that the first units in general are a little bit later, and then it's actually a bit harder to contain the creep. That's annoying. Astrea is obviously completely aware of that, and because of that he says, I'm gonna go double gate instead of like one gate Stargate. We open double gate, double chrono, so I can still get those adepts quickly to the other side of the map and make sure I can keep the creep at bay.
I like that decision a lot. He's going to be able to send those 2 adepts straight across the map. Also following this up with another one of those Stargates. A very, very kind of standard, typical play from him so far in terms of what he likes to go for as the follow-ups from these early gateway units and everything. Scarlett just going to be adding on a couple of these links to deal with the adepts, but no big overreaction or anything like you said. You can't really do a whole lot this late on to deal with the kind of early Nexus.
Yeah, maybe if Scarlett would have gone for a similar opening to Ghost River, where it's like early gas, early pool, later expand, then you can still decide to go first. But even then, like Oceanborn is not the tiniest map out there. And as a Protoss player, if you scout it then you can obviously start playing it very safe immediately, get an early battery. It's like people don't play Nexus first very often because they're so worried. It's just because they like the timings of all the stuff that they're so used to as well. And obviously StarCraft 2 is a game where every half a second matters. You don't want to be in an awkward spot like, do I chrono boost here or do I now drop the tag? Where do I move my units? There are certain scenarios that you get ultra familiar with, like just stuff like even queen positioning, right? When you do the same build over and over again. And if you're not really used to those timings with Nexus first, then it doesn't even really make a whole lot of sense to play Nexus first. As Astrea, by the way, is going up to 3 bases very quick, despite the fact that he already had a quick natural. Has an Oracle out, has 2 gateways. Before Twilight Forge or a Robo whatsoever, Astrea says, it's all out macro for me in game 5.
And that's so interesting to me because I really wonder, how does Scarlett respond to this kind of stuff? Because when I think of series between these 2 players, I know Scarlett can play those hyper late game PvZs. I mean, she has some phenomenal ZVPs in the past against players like Neeb, where they would go to the ultra late game. But I feel it rarely comes out versus Astrea, and I do wonder if she's going to get a little bit more aggressive because of this.
I think that Astrea is going to be a little bit more aggressive as well, as we have 6 basic adepts. That's obviously different than 1 or 2 random adepts, and this is something that Scarlett is absolutely going to have to respect. There's no Roach Warren yet. Now these adepts don't have Resident Clays, but Astrea is still going to let the Shade finish up, and I don't hate it. Keep an eye on the minimap, because there are still Oracles flying around as well. Scarlett is aware of those Oracles, and she's kind of worried about them, does not want to end up losing a Queen. In the end, the adepts will shade away 1 Oracle. Maybe activate Pulsar Beam. No, thought about a stasis trap there, but in the end said, nah, not worth it. And I kind of like the decision not to go for it, because Scarlett was already looking. And dropping a stasis trap when your opponent is already looking is kind of silly. By the way, it's a Robo and a very quick Robo Bay. We haven't really seen this throughout the entire event. If there was ever a Spire moment for Scarlett, I would almost say this game is the Spire game.
Oh, that would be fascinating to see from Scarlett. I mean, she's definitely also been mixing things up throughout the series, but Astrea has absolutely been keeping things fresh on his end as well. Robotics Bay going to be finishing up relatively shortly, but well, I mean, Scarlett's not really going to have a whole lot of vision of things for a little bit, so this is going to probably take a little while for her to actually catch a wind of.
Yep. I mean, it's going to be difficult. You're going to scry it. A couple of roaches do get fired up. We have a Hydra then being dropped down as well. We saw Hydra then on Golden Aura. Then it got cancelled for Aspire because Scarlett just wanted to get some Corruptors out to deal with carriers. Now, this game we wouldn't get Aspire because we are worried about carriers. Well, maybe Mutalisk would actually be pretty damn good. Because there is a chance that Astrea even goes Zealot Charge here, right? Before he goes Blink. And that means if you can just get like 12 Mutas or so, you're going to have the time of your life. It is actually going to be blinked up for Astrea. A bit of like old school parting here, right? Double Robo, Colossus, Blink Stalkers. That's what parting brought to IM Katowice a couple years ago, and he was playing it throughout the entire tournament.
Yeah, who needs those Heart of the Swarm, Legacy of the Void units? Stalkers and Colossus, always a tried and true standard. But as the big Gateway Flood comes on out, and that first Colossus is going to be popping on out, Thermal Lance nearly halfway done. Astrea is going to be well set up to take any kind of early fights, and those Colossus absolutely can also shred through those Hydras as long as they're able to get into a good position against them.
Yeah, I'm kind of worried for Scarlett, by the way, because this can really turn into one of the scenarios where if you're stuck on lair attack for a little too long, yeah, you're just going to get A-moved. There's absolutely nothing you can do with just Roaches and Ravages and maybe a couple Hydras, Zerglings against all these gateways, Immortals, Double Robo Colossus. You need something like Vipers or a bunch of Lurkers, right? Like anything that's crazy. A Spy earlier would have been fantastic. Spamming Roaches and Hydras of 76 drones. And this is a straight up build order nightmare for Scarlett. Her army is just not going to be good enough. I mean, I know we've seen Dark pull off miracles, right? Now Scarlett is bleeding out a couple of Zerglings as well. Things are not looking too hot for our Canadian Zerg.
Yeah, I mean, to hold off with just pure Roach Hydra or some of these Lings and the Hydras, you really do need overwhelming numbers, or you need a massive kind of sandwich concave, an ambush or something. And Scarlett definitely has some creep spread going through different parts of the map. There's a potential for something like that, but she is going to be banking a lot if that's what she's hoping for.
I'm very worried for Scarlett because I kind of think that she's expecting just a couple Archons, right? And this many Hydras would be fantastic against Archons. Astrea really has all the tools to deal with this. Now losing 2 Oracles before the battle starts, that's perhaps not the way to go for it. As Astrea fires up a couple of Disruptors now, and Scarlett is going to see these Colossus. It's going to be like, oh, will she try to surround this Protoss army? He's at least working on the 4th Nexus, gonna get a cancel, get the violence, immediately drop the Infestation Pit though, and I do love that call. I wouldn't go for it, but Scarlett is thinking about it. She really does want to train out her army.
She's gonna just try and dive in toward the natural, goes for the Warp Gate, sends a bunch of the Lings and the Roaches, I love that decision, into the main base, forcing Astrea to react to that. A Disruptor does pop on out. It makes things awkward because the rest of Astrea's army is not moving into the natural.
This is how you turn a build order nightmare into something promising as the Disruptor gets picked up as well. The Nova does not connect. Scarlett is, I want to say, doing a really good job and not truly taking these fights. Just kind of running away, right, and buying time. Trying to make this hectic, but Astrea is doing a good job as well in his own main base. Sure, a couple of the buildings are unpowered and whatnot, but in the end, he only lost 2 probes. How the hell did he lose 2 probes there? I saw 15 Roaches run into the main base, Ravi.
It is absolutely wild, but I guess they were focus firing down one of the pylons that was powering a lot of the gateways, and just Scarlett not really finding the damage that she was looking for with that big attack. And now the Colossus count is growing. Yes, Scarlett has that Infestation Pit done. Hive is on the way, but Astrea should have a theoretical window right now to attack, right? With plus 2 weapons fishing?
Creep is scary. Creep is always scary because Roach Hydra does perform a whole lot better on Creep. They get a bit of that speed boost, and then they can actually just right-click on top of that Protoss army. Scarlett is trying to just do whatever the hell she can. Knows, of course, that yes, if they are forced to fight straight up, this Protoss army is a whole lot more powerful. Scarlett is waiting, counting down the seconds right now until Hive is done, and the moment Hive is done, you fire up a couple of Vipers immediately because Astrea does not have a good answer for Vipers, and everything is going to be good here, right? Blinding Clouds, even a Parasitic Bomb and a Colossus. Scarlett shouldn't really commit to these fights. I'm okay with like pretending it like you want to fight, but really taking the fight off Creep, I don't think that's quite the play. I'm gonna say Scarlett does have a lot of money in the bank, so it's alright. Just needs Vipers. Blinding Clouds and Abducts are going to be phenomenal here.
Hive is done. Vipers immediately spired on off. The Warp Prism is going to go down immediately. Scarlett's so ready for that Warp Prism. That's a big victory for Scarlett, as she is still going to have to deal with the main army on the front lines. The Vipers may come out, but they still need time to get energy as well for those Abducts.
We are about to get plus 2 missile attacks, and I think Scarlett can send some units down that top ramp, right? So then you can maybe get a bit of a surround on this immediately. The Disruptor count only at 2 will Astrea recall. It kind of feels like he wants to recall, or he thinks he's just going to stick here and fight. Fires the Nova forward, gets the Queen, gets the Hydra. The Colossus are exposed though. One of them does die. These Novas are hurting forward. Blink by Astrea.
And Astrea is starting to just do a little bit too much damage here to this army of Scarlett. The supplies are even up. A Zealot run-by on the right-hand side of the map. A slow Zealot run-by. His charges only just now finishing up. Abducts finally coming out, but going on the Immortal rather than the Colossus or the Disruptors.
I kind of like it because Scarlett is remaxing on 20 Roaches, right? So Roaches on 3 might be able to get on top of this, but the Disruptor does get a perfect shot of, and Scarlett, her supply plummets. That Disruptor gets saved as well. As the Zealots are still doing their thing. Is history repeating itself once more, Ravi?
Oh, the hatchery goes down to the final Zealot, and that is 2-3 hatchery snipes there that Astrea managed to find in a very short period of time. Scarlett is going to go ahead and rebuild 2 of them at the same time, but now we have High Templars being added, and Archons are going to be available. Storm is on the way. +3 weapons is close to finishing here for Astrea. It feels like he's still finding additional level ups and upgrades for his next stage of the fights.
What a turnaround for Astrea. A nightmare Friday where things didn't just really go his way. A bad start to the Saturday morning as well. Down 0-2 against the Scarlett. That just really seemed to be on fire, but he has really turned this series on its head. It all started with a couple Zealots inside Delta. And here in Game 5, things are looking mighty fine for Astrea. He's not quite there yet. He's still going to have to respect the Vipers, the Abducts. But he is just in such a phenomenal spot. And he does have an answer for the Vipers too now. Templar Archives is researching Storm, as that's going to finish up as well. The upgrades for Astrea, we didn't even mention that, but those are absolutely fantastic as well. +3 attack, +2 armor. Meanwhile, Scarlett just working with +2 missile attacks.
Yeah, she has +3 on the way, but it is only about halfway done. And with how aggressively positioned on the map Astrea is, it's not necessarily unlikely that Astrea is going to be able to try and find some kind of trades while he still has that upgrade advantage right now. But for the moment, he's at least just establishing his 4th base, cleaning up some of the crease rate, because that crease rate has started getting a little bit out of control.
Yep, and I think that's the only thing that's kind of keeping him maybe a tiny bit timid at this point, where he's like, oh, that's scary.
The Vipers!
Yep, the Stalkers blink forward as they see those 2 Vipers trying to get some energy from the Spore Crawler or the Extractor, and Scarlett just finds herself in even more trouble. The Lurkers don't have all their upgrades yet. Stalkers are a little bit low on HP, but nothing is going to stop this well-upgraded Protoss army and the hometown hero